Jealousy can be rooted in all evil. Love your enemies and do good to those who hate you, for he is kind to the ungrateful, expecting nothing in return. Now, before I explore this whole notion of love and kindness that is clearly put in front of us in all the readings today, I want to first share with you how uplifting this whole lay preaching experience has been for me. Well, this is my first sermon. I have been attending the meetings that the group has every month for almost a year now. At the beginning of the month, we briefly read the lessons and share thoughts, and on the last Wednesday of the month, we rehearse our sermons and receive feedback from each other. I will be honest, I'm not a reader. My reading comprehension suffers, and because of this, I have always had a hard time absorbing Scripture. You see, I'm an architect. I like pictures, drawings, music, the art kind of things. Words, not so much. But it was comforting when our rector informed me that it was okay because it's really a building process. Now, when I started thinking about today's readings, what struck me is that we think we have it right and they have it wrong attitude. We see it in religious differences, and we see it in politics. And because of this mentality of I'm right and you are wrong, we become at odds with those who don't see our point of view. We create enemies. I recall a song many years ago as a teenager that I heard, and how I thought it had a great message. So let me explain the situation. Like most teenagers, I would listen to rock music. I liked the music of the 70s and 80s. However, I always liked the artists that seemed to have spiritual messages in their songs. Maybe this was because I attended an inner city Methodist church in Bridgeport with my family, but whatever the case, I remember listening to a song by Charlie Daniels called The Universal Hand. In the song, he rattles off battles over the land, starting from King Solomon. He sings, "They are all good men, trying to do the right thing. They just don't understand that they are brothers and they are cousins, united by the universal hand." He continues with, just because you can't agree on the deity, ain't nobody wrong, ain't nobody right. You can call him Jehovah, you can call him Allah, you can call him Jesus or any other name. There is only one, so they got to be the same. Now I'm hearing this song, and again, I'm probably 17, it just came out, and I'm thinking, what a great message. How can more people hear this message? So my grandfather's the lay leader of our parish of Bridgeport, and he takes over and preaches in the summer when our pastor's away on vacation. So I told my grandfather, I would like to get up in church on Sunday and recite these lyrics. Actually, I wanted to sing them. So my grandfather obliges and he works it in. I even purchased the music and had the organist rehearse it, and we decided it was better off if I just recited the lyrics. So why create enemies? In a lot of cases, I think it's rooted in jealousy. Or is it rooted in this mentality that I have figured it out, I am right, we are right, and you are wrong? I think we can learn from these readings today is that we are challenged to use the actions of others to further examine our own actions. My former partner used to always remind us that people on our staff aren't performing. Maybe we haven't given them the skills or provided them with the proper tools. He would always remind us that maybe we haven't been clear. By doing this re-examination of ourselves, we are often challenged to look at our own weaknesses. How can we change to help improve things is not always an easy step to accept. I recently purchased some new windows for our house, and when they were delivered, I discovered they were not what I thought I was getting. Now, was it my failure to not know what I was getting, or did the person who sold them to me not explain what I was purchasing? Was I expected to understand all abbreviations and model numbers and ordering information? It was easy to quickly blame them for not explaining to me. But after further re-examination, I can see how maybe they assumed I understood what I was purchasing. Fortunately, by exposing both of our responsibilities to the issue, we met in the middle and were able to resolve the situation. As Charlie Daniels puts it, ain't nobody wrong, ain't nobody right. One can only hope that when faced with these kinds of situations, we both see that we have responsibilities. In Luke 6, Jesus says, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Now, an enemy could be an individual person who you just don't get along with, or it could be a nation or a country. We can criticize a regime or a country for the actions they take, but what Jesus teaches us is that we are asked to first put ourselves in their shoes to better understand the circumstances. Seek the good. Ask yourself, what has led to why they are taking this action? We can see this with our territorial instincts and jealousy for power that has challenged us individually and as a nation. Like the lyrics from the song I recited, they were all good men trying to do the right thing. This personal re-examining of one's self-circumstances is something that may be too often missing in politics and government. We must ask ourselves, why are they opposing my plan? What is the good that I can learn from this interaction? What is in it for them that has created this action? What if both sides are right? By doing this, we are seeking the good in everything. First time preaching, so I'm nervous. So can we agree to disagree? And is that such a bad thing? I believe when we stop to remember that everything we have comes from God, our actions become much different. I'm sure we have all tried, but it's not that easy to do. It requires us to pull down the barriers and open to another perspective on things, even when we're sure we have the answer to prosperity for everyone. Because of my Ukrainian ancestry, I look at the situation between Russia and Ukraine. They seem to always be in conflict over their border in the Crimea territory. I recently spoke to my cousin who lives in Ukraine and was recently drafted by the Ukrainian army. And he said, well, things are calm now, but we will probably always be fighting over this territory. Both sides have good reasons, and both sides feel they are stronger, prosperous countries with that territory. He said, it's no different than the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I said to myself, wow, here's my new cousin, Ukrainian, and he's seeing Russia's side. He gets it. Ain't nobody wrong, ain't nobody right. We can learn a lot from this example of jealousy that we heard when reading the passage from Genesis this morning. If you look into what's going on prior to chapter 45, where we pick it up, it was pretty clear that Jacob's father favored Joseph. This was not any of Joseph's doing. Now, to make matters worse, Joseph tells his brothers that he had a dream where his brothers, along with his father, bowed down to him. Talk about adding insult to injury. He tries to tell them to not be jealous because he has done nothing to deserve the jealousy that eventually they will need and appreciate. His brothers become so jealous that at one point, all but two of his brothers wanted to kill him. Eventually, they only fake his death by dipping his favorite coat of many colors in the blood of a goat. They then flaunt it in front of their dad. Instead of killing him, his brothers instead sell him as a slave, and he ends up in Egypt. Now, over the years, Joseph became well liked by the Egyptians. He is later named the second most powerful man due to his powers of seeing into the future and correctly predicting the famine. Lots of reasons for them to be jealous. Needing food, his father sends his brothers to find him. They don't recognize Joseph, and so he uses this to test their true repentance to the way they had treated him. Joseph sends them back to get the father and settle in the land of Goshen, where they can be near him and they have everything that they need. We can see that jealousy does not get you anything and can actually get in the way of your prosperity. Joseph has done nothing wrong, yet his brothers are all so jealous that to get rid of him, they sell him as a slave. We also see through repentance, they are spared from the famine and they are reunited with their family. As Charlie Daniels sings, ain't nobody wrong, ain't nobody right. They are cousins, they are brothers, united by the universal payment. I recently watched the movie I'm Not Ashamed. This is a true story of one of the victims, Rachel Scott, who was killed in the Columbine massacre. Rachel was a spiritual person who had deep convictions for her faith. Like most teenagers, she struggled with fitting in and giving in to the pressures of adolescence versus following the paths that she felt her relationship with God wanted her to go. She kept a journal, and several of the surviving victims were able to help the writers keep the story very accurate. In the movie, we learn how the jealousy of two students brings them to eventually conduct revenge and kill 13 people before taking their own lives. We also see how holding true to your convictions, being a loving, compassionate person, can have a profound impact on the lives of many others. She may have lost her life, but hopefully we come away knowing who she was and using her as an example of how we should truly live our lives. I think I got choked up because when I watched the movie, it is really moving, and I got very choked up watching the movie, so I guess that just came back through. Philip Yancey writes in his book titled The Jesus I Never Knew about being invited to the White House by Bill Clinton. Apparently Bill was looking for advice on how to improve his low standing with evangelical Christians. Yancey writes about the possible message that he could give to the president. What if he turned the Beatitudes into contemporary terms? What if he told the president to stop worrying about the economy and jobs? For the poor are the fortunate ones. The more poor we have in the U.S., the more blessed we are. The kingdom of heaven is theirs. So what are we being so jealous of? Having something someone has will not get you anything. It sure won't get you into the kingdom of God. I would like to share another story. Most of you probably know that I play tennis on Sunday mornings, and that's why in the wintertime I'm often late and sometimes I miss the sermons, and I apologize for that. But I have more flexibility in the summer with my tennis schedule, but it's not so easy when you have court time indoors. So I feel this preaching opportunity has made me be a witness of spiritual faith to my tennis partners. These guys are now very interested in what I'm preaching at. It has become part of our water break conversation. When I told them the scriptures and had to do with loving your neighbor as yourself, we joked about it, one of the group members who apparently was at odds with his neighbor. I believe it is true that our daily actions can have profound outcomes as long as we're willing to share our faith stories. Jesus' death gives us hope. We don't have to be the person that gets it all right the first time. With self-examination, we can be open to accepting someone else's point of view, even when we think we have the answers. We all have stories to share that can be game changers for those around us. We can use our faith and love for Christ to be the positive influence and to have the positive outcomes that are not self-serving. The consequences of jealousy are numerous. With repeated self-examination, we are challenged to remind ourselves that what we have comes from God, and as faithful stewards of this creation, we can live in a world of peace and love. And as the song goes, and they are all good men trying to do the right thing, trying to make the right choice. They just don't understand that they are cousins and they are brothers, united by an universal hand. Jealousy can be the root of all evil. Love your enemies and do good to those who hate you. For he is kind to the ungrateful, expecting nothing in return. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Amen. Amen.